Welcome to Health Coach for Women. Intentional living for more happiness and fulfillment in your everyday life with your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker. Join Marsha as she shares her own personal wellness journey, as well as stories from our guests that will enlighten and inspire you to move towards better health and happiness. Now, here's your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker.
Welcome to another episode of Health Coach for Women, a podcast where we explore alternative and holistic solutions for better health and wellness. And I am your host, Marsha. Thank you so much for joining me today. But before we get started, please go ahead and hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Now, of course, you know I always love to start out with a quote. So I have one for you today. And it's related to today's topic. Water is life's matter and matrix, mother and medium. There is no life without water. By Albert Szent-Györgyi, something like that. But okay, that's who that's by. All right, today's topic is what's really in our drinking water? What is in our drinking water in America? And this is just referring to the United States. All right. And so I've done some studying, and this is what I found. I always knew that we have contaminants in our water, right? That I knew, right? I knew that for some time now, but I didn't know like the exact names. Besides chlorine and fluoride, I didn't know the other things that can be found in tap water. And I left out some of the other stuff that I discovered from a scientist watching a video from him. This was some years back. But anyway, so first, let me talk about the piping system in America. Now you'll be surprised to know that our piping system has not been touched in years, okay? And when I say years, I'm not talking a decade, I'm talking about at least a century, okay? And so you're talking about over about 100 years old, if not more. So it's been a long time, and there has been an issue about this very thing. And the New York Times actually did an article on this, right? And I'm just going to read some of it here. The New York Times did an article on this because the cost to do the infrastructure on changing the piping system is not in the millions, folks. It's in the billions, okay? And so there's a big issue with that, with changing the infrastructure and the piping and all of that stuff. It costs a lot of money, right? And of course, we don't want to pay for that, right? Why should we? But I'll get into more of that as I go on. All right, so let me just share with you this article that was written in the New York Times back in 2017. All right, I'll just read some of it, some of the main points of it. Bursting pipes, leaks, public health scares. America is facing a crisis over its crumbling water infrastructure, and fixing it will be a monumental and expensive task. Okay, remember I already said that it's very expensive. Two powerful industries, right, plastic and iron, are locked in a lobbying war over the estimated, check this out, $300 billion that local governments will spend on water and sewer pipes over the next decade. Okay, now this article was written in 2017. All right, we're now in 2023. So it is a battle of titans raging just inches beneath our feet. All right, and what else it is saying here? I'm just trying to pull out the key points. It says, now, there are pipes in the ground that are 150 years old. So you remember I said about a century, over 100 years, or 150 years old. That's a long time for piping and all of that stuff to not to be changed, or, some type of, I don't know how it works in that whole arena there, but just like the piping aren't the pipes old, rusted? I don't know. Okay. So it says, in cities and towns and state capitals in Washington will determine how drinking water is delivered to homes across America for generations to come. This should be of priority, simply because we all need water to drink, and we're all expecting to get clean water, clean drinking water in our homes, right? And so let me see what else here that I'm trying to pull out. Traditional materials like iron and steel currently make up almost 2/3 of the existing municipal water pipe infrastructure. So it's the iron and steel. But over the next decade, the article is saying as much as 80% of new municipal investment in water pipes could be spent on plastic pipes, Bluefield predicts. Okay. So it says that the outcome of the rivalry will also determine the country's response to an infrastructure challenge of epic proportions. Okay. So it's saying by 2020, we're now in 2023. I don't know what the update is. I'll probably have to look into that. But as of right now, I believe things are still the same. And I'm going to lead into that also. By 2020, the average age of the 1.6 million miles of water and sewer pipes in the United States will hit 45 years. Okay. Cast iron pipes in at least 600 towns and countries are more than a century old. Right. So there you have it. I'm not going to go much more into that. Let's see. But this is what I wanted to share with you. So now, I'm looking at this here. It says, okay. And this is what I was going to get into next. I wanted to just also share about the different contaminants that they found in water. Okay, so check this out. I'm going to play out a clip here for you to listen to. Check this out, and I'll be back in a moment.
Growing up in the United States, you hear over and over again that we have the cleanest drinking water in the world, we have the cleanest water, the cleanest air, and so you don't realize that you need to be worried. I was really shocked by how long companies like DuPont and 3M lied to regulators, lied to their workers, lied to community members, even if hiding that information from them meant that people in their community would get cancer. This announcement is historic. It is long overdue. We really welcome the EPA's announcement to take aggressive action to finally address these two notorious PFAS in drinking water. I think the reason that it is happening right now is because of people like Hope. Hope Gross is a resident of Pennsylvania. She grew up near a military installation, and as a result of decades of use of firefighting foams that use PFAS, her water was contaminated, and she has suffered from lifelong health impacts as a result of that exposure.
Once PFAS ends up in our water, it eventually makes its way into our homes in our drinking water. That PFAS is going to accumulate in our bodies.
PFAS are associated with some kinds of cancers like kidney and testicular cancer, with reproductive harms like lower birth weights, lower sperm counts, some developmental harms, and even immune harms like making our vaccines less effective. We first got involved way back in the early 2000s when the now famous lawyer, Rob Bilott, brought his lawsuit against DuPont.
By the 1960s and 1970s, DuPont had data in its files from animal studies showing toxic effects in multiple species. By the end of the 1970s, DuPont knew that PFAS was building up in the blood of humans. By the 1980s, DuPont was concerned about liver damage and birth defects among its own PFAS-exposed workers. By 2012, this independent panel of scientists had concluded, yes, drinking this in the water was linked with 6 different serious diseases, including 2 types of cancer.
We really used our advocacy platform at EWG to start advocating for changes, to push the EPA to take action. Drinking water utilities will have to install some kind of technology that will filter out the PFAS before it comes out of the tap. And so that's really a significant public health win. I think a lot of the talking points you're going to hear from the industry come back to cost. And I actually agree with industry on that point. Consumers shouldn't be the ones who have to pay. It's industry that created this mess, and they should be on the hook for getting PFAS out of the water. Regulations for these two chemicals will help people like Hope by making sure that the water that comes out of the faucet in your kitchen is safer.
We're all individuals, and when we all act together, we can make big change.
Okay, so you saw the clip, you heard the clip about these substances, right? You heard the clip about that, the PFAS, what is it called? PFAS? Yeah, PFAS. And just by out of my own curiosity, I wanted to look up to see, what it means. Okay, and so here is what I found on PFAS. Okay, so PFAS, it basically stands for what it says, the per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. So they are a group of chemical substances used to make coatings and products that resist heat, oil, stains, grease, and water. Okay, so in that video, that is what they were talking about, and that company is fighting for us, right? Is fighting for us, the consumer, us who make up part of the American communities, right? And so we deserve to have proper, clean drinking water, right? So this is what the Environmental Working Group is doing. And I enjoyed that piece, but I also discovered some other things, right, that is in our drinking water. All right. And one of the things are, of course, of lead. We know about lead with the whole the Flint, Michigan incident. That was the lead that was found in the drinking supply. And that was not too long ago, right? That wasn't too long ago. Also, arsenic. Arsenic was also found in drinking water. Okay. I apologize in advance if I'm not saying it properly, but I'm just going to go over the names. Bromodichloromethane, okay, that's been found to have 52 more times the normal limit. Chloroform, it has 7 times more than the normal limit. Haloacetic acid, 247 times the normal limit. Nitrates, 10 times more, and a chemical called TTHM, which is 360 times more than the normal limit. Now, these are all, they're saying that it's safe, right? They're saying, of course, they're saying that it's safe to drink, but these things has been known to cause high levels of estrogen, and also I didn't even mention the fluoride and the chloramine, that's also in the drinking water. Okay. And now we already know that the updates and stuff haven't been made for over 150 years, right? But what about them doing a review on the updates on all the chemicals that's being found, and what would make it the normal limits? When was the last testing done to check the chemicals in the water? Right. And for that, it hasn't been done for over 20 years, for about 20 years or so. Right. So what do we need to do, folks? What do we need to do? We need to hold these companies and government accountable. Right. They want to charge us taxes. We need to hold them accountable as well. Uncle Sam expects for us to pay taxes. Well, we as citizens expect for you guys to do your part. Right? Do your part in making sure that we have clean drinking water. Okay. And so what I also found that many of these chemicals causes cancer. And we know about lead. We know that what that can do to children, and it can affect their learning ability, right? With mental challenges and things like that. Okay. Arsenic, linked to cancer. There's and several of the items that I just went over with you, 4 of the 5 are linked to cancer. Many of these things are when you look at it and you dive into it more, is linked to a lot of different issues. And it comes up with cancer being the most prevalent thing that keeps, the dominant thing that keeps coming up. All right. And so we need to make sure that we got to look into getting filters. You have to do your research on finding the right filters that not only filters out fluoride and chlorine, but all these other things, these PFAS, right? All these other chemicals. We don't want to be drinking that stuff, right? Because it's not safe. And you're wondering, right? And people are wondering, why do we have these different health issues, right? Why do we have these issues of infertility, hormone imbalance, cancer? Why all of these issues? And we're learning that, of course, our environment, we're just breathing it in, right? We're drinking it. Okay, so we have to work and strive towards doing better. And when I say we, I'm talking about government, I'm talking about us as an individual. If we have to invest in getting filters, we have a filter here at home, but we want to go ahead and look into the ones that is going to eliminate all of the time, at least the majority of it, right? And one video that I watched, it was a scientist, and he tested some of the tap water. And I wasn't going to share this part, and one of the things that he found, because believe it or not, animals do get caught in these sewer systems, right? Sometimes they're saved, thankfully there's somebody that's able to save them. And unfortunately, sometimes there are not. And so they decompose in these piping systems. And one of the things that the scientists found was animal hair. Okay, so I didn't want to share that part, but look, there are so many things that we eat and consume and we don't even know because we cannot see it, right? We don't know when we order from the restaurant or our packaged good, unless we pulled it out of the ground ourselves and planted it ourselves, we really don't know. There's so many things that we don't know behind the scenes where food has been. And that's just the truth, right? And so that's why we do what we can to wash our food and prepare our food to the proper temperatures to kill bacteria and things of that nature. Proper drinking water. Now, if you wanted to check for contaminants in your area, you can go to ewg.org to test for any contaminants in your area. Okay, and I'll leave a link in the description below. So I wanted to check for in my area, and I entered my zip code, and it came up with 25 total contaminants just for my area. That's what it came up with, 25. Now, and according to their website here, they say legal does not necessarily equal safe, right? So they can say legal, that it's legal and it's safe, right? They can say it's legal, but doesn't mean that it's safe. They allow certain things, certain amount of things to be put in our food and our drinking water, and legally it's supposed to be safe, but it's not once you do the studies and the research, right? Once you do the studies and that's why we need independent researchers, independent testers that can do these things that's not attached to government, to be able to freely be able to test samples of the water and determine its safety, right? And so when we go here, when I put in my information for my city, it said 13 exceed the EWG's website. It exceed health guidelines, 13 of the 25, okay? And there's 25 total, but 13 exceeded health guidelines. So as a resident of Cleveland, I'm concerned, right? I do prepare my food and cook my food with the water, right? So it's definitely something that's to be concerned about, not to say you're going to freak out over these things, right? Because we can't freak out over everything, but it is of concern. It is of concern. And so we have to do our own due diligence. We have to do what we can to reduce our exposure. And that's why it's so important when it comes to nutrition and eating healthy food, doing detoxes, things like that, right? Exercising, making sure that you are loading up with antioxidants, getting rid of the free radicals in the body, and that's why sleep is important, right? Because as you heard on my previous episode, the importance of sleep, right? On the previous episodes where I talked about sleep, the importance of that, and your lymphatic system, right? And how the body detoxifies when we sleep, right? Through the lymphatic system. And in the brain, it's through the cerebrospinal fluid that the brain detoxifies. Okay, so it is important that we do these things that we can. We may not be able to eliminate everything, eradicate everything 100%, but if we can lower our risk, by taking action and doing more of the things that's going to help us improve our health, then we must do so. And so supplements, that's why supplements are important, right? And not all supplements are good for you, right? Not all supplements, but you want to make sure, we have to read. We can't just look at the price. And those, I hate to say it, those vitamins out of Walmart, no, don't consider them at all. Okay, you don't want to, they may be cheap and affordable, but they're not cheap. Doesn't always mean it's good for you, right? Cheap is not always bad, but it's not always good for you either. So we have to read labels. We need to read labels. We need to be able to understand and decipher what is best for us, right? We have to be able to do that and look and reading the labels of whether it says non-GMO or non-bioengineered or vegan, gluten-free, plant-based. We just have to start reading, right? We have to start reading the labels. I can't tell you times before in the past where I've picked up things and I just saw something. I said, oh, it says such and such. And when I get home, and I'm reading because I didn't take the time to read it. I just want to get what I need to get from the store and just hurry up and get out of the supermarket. It's crowded. And when I get home, the labels, it's like saying something totally different that I didn't want to purchase in the first place, right? So take the time to read those labels, and if it's things you really can't even understand, then more than likely you probably shouldn't be eating it, right? That's the easiest way. You probably shouldn't be eating it, okay? And so that's what I wanted to discuss today on that. So with our drinking water. It's so important, guys. I can't stress to you enough the importance of health, right? That's greater than wealth, having our health. We want to be able to empower ourselves, not just by getting information, because getting information is easy, right? Especially in this day and age with Dr. Google, right? Especially in this day and age with Dr. Google. All right, we can go on our phone and we can look at so many things and find so many things. But if we don't implement the things that we are learning, then it is of no value, right? And not only that, there's so much information that you can also get misinformation, right? And so that can happen too, right? So, but if you want to get on to that website and test, check for the contaminants in your area, again, you would go to ewg.org. And again, I'll have that link provided for you. All right. I thank you so much for tuning in today. Please be sure to share, like, and subscribe. And if you are having issues with certain things regarding your health, and you just want to probably hit me up and ask me a question, feel free to do so. I'm on Instagram. You can hit me up on Facebook. I'm more on Instagram. I'm even on LinkedIn. Hit me up, ask me a question. I'll be sure to help as best as I can. Until next time, bye for now.
If you are struggling with health issues like chronic pain, being held back by past traumas, or feeling overwhelmed and hopeless, please know there is hope. There is help. Transcendence, a woman's guide to healing and self-love for better health, happiness, and abundance, is a blueprint to help you get your life back and reclaim your health. Within its pages, you'll learn how to elevate your existence by shifting your mindset toward the positive, focusing your energy on what's really important, using gratitude to feel deep appreciation, changing your gene expression through epigenetics, building resilience, and living in a state of flow, feeling love overflow within. Go beyond an ordinary life. Transcend. Buy it now.
Thank you so much for listening to Health Coach for Women with your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to rate, subscribe, and review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate that effort. Until next time.